All right, Cassie, we appreciate you very much. Always great to hear from you. And we are bringing you a safety alert this afternoon. A number of crashes involving recreation vehicles and minors have happened this year in Missouri, with one in late July ending in tragedy. According to the Missouri State Highway Patrol, a teen was killed and another seriously injured on July 25th in Stoddard County. The crash report says a 14-year-old was driving a side-by-side which went off the road and overturned. Of the 3 teens in the vehicle, the driver and another 14-year-old were injured, and a 15-year-old girl was killed. We are so happy to have Sergeant Clark Parrott with the Missouri State Highway Patrol in the studio with us today. And it seems like these topics, unfortunately, have to be talked about, right?
They do. And, you know, anytime you combine teenagers and ATVs or UTVs, that's a kind of a recipe for a bad day. And that latest crash report in Stoddard County kind of accentuated that, when you consider that we've got unlicensed people operating an ATV or a UTV or a side-by-side at 1:45 in the morning. There's not a whole lot of good that's going to come out of that. But the thing that people need to understand is that an ATV or a side-by-side, it's not a good child care provider. It's not a good babysitter. You've got unlicensed folks that don't know how to drive, operating these things on the motorways. And a county road is a highway of the state of Missouri. It's a roadway of the state of Missouri. Highway Patrol has jurisdiction over that. So, you know, anytime that these things happen, we get phone calls. What can be done? What can be done? Well, we've tried to educate. We've tried to do enforcement, and these things continue to happen. At some point, the folks at home have to sit down with their loved ones and say, you cannot operate this thing on the county roads. You cannot put your friends in it. We wouldn't let you drive your pickup truck or our pickup truck coming down the road. So a side-by-side or a four-wheeler is no different than a motor vehicle.
I mean, I can look back to whenever I was in high school. There were a few kids that I was in school with that unfortunately did get seriously injured in a crash similar to that. Whenever we talk about it being summer, more kids are wanting to go out, do stuff that's fun. What's the big takeaway as a parent people should know?
Well, first of all, if they're going to operate an ATV or a UTV in Missouri, you got to have a valid driver's license. And if you are going to operate it on a county road, gravel, you know, Cape County has a lot of paved county roads. You have to, and this goes to everybody, have to have a seatbelt on. And you have to obey all the traffic laws and this and that. But there is a maximum speed that these things can operate at. And depending on which it is, could be upwards of 30 miles an hour. And when you consider that some of these things will do in excess of 100 miles an hour, you take an unlicensed, unfamiliar driver with one of these things, put them out on a dark road at nighttime trying to impress their friends, that's where it's a bad day for everybody.
And are you guys seeing an increase in these types of crashes with it being summertime?
Not necessarily an increase, but more of the severity
of
them. You know, 2 or 3 in a vehicle, and then you failure to negotiate a curve, run through a T intersection or things like that, and people not wearing the safety belts, using the safety equipment in these vehicles and ejecting them, and that's where it's a bad day.
And we also, while we have you here, we're going to talk about a pretty big event happening really, really soon, the Sykes and J.C. Boot Heel Rodeo. Whenever it comes to traffic impacts, what do you want to get across?
Use patience. I just looked at the ticket sales before I came in here. 3 of the 4 nights are sold out.
Oh, wow.
Thursday night is somewhere at about 85%. Normally we'll get a 5 to 8% walk up on that. So it's essentially going to be almost a sellout. Anyway, traffic on Ingram, Saucedo, Main Street in Sykeston, the side streets, Double H coming off the interstate, it's going to be impacted. So we just encourage people to slow down in those affected areas, pay attention to what you're doing. Missouri State Highway Patrol, along with our partners, Sykeston Department of Public Safety and Scott County Sheriff's Department, we're going to be out there in our bright yellow vest directing traffic and trying to answer as many questions and get people in as safely as we can. But once you're in there, if alcohol or other impairments are part of your plan, make sure you have a safe and sober driver. We continually work crashes involving impaired drivers every year on rodeo nights, and we want to make sure that does not happen this year.
Okay, we appreciate everything that you do to keep our community safe. Thank you very much, Sergeant Clark Parrott.